Go. Hi, everybody. Swing this around a little bit more. We're coming to you live this week from Casa Auto out here on the porch. Um, where we had a little bit of excitement these last few minutes. It produced a visual aid that we'll get to in just a little bit. Um, but I first wanted to share with you a little bit of technology. Well, good news, bad news types of things. I'm still having trouble playing videos. So I'm going to try a little method. I know you guys, you've been down this road with me so many times before. Um, I'm going to try I'm going to try some screen shares that I haven't done before to see if we can look at some of the videos we've got in the last couple of weeks. But before we get to that, I wanted to actually start off with a talk about my thoughts on uh, some of our apps that we're using these days to identify things. Some are clearly better than others. Now, I'm one who hasn't invested in any of them. I haven't paid any money. I've got some free ones. I've seen in the last few weeks people posting online on Facebook or sending me questions based on answers they've gotten from Google Lens, which is really, if you have a Google phone, it's an image search that Google will do. If you take a picture of something, it's going to uh, scan the web and it's going to see if it can find images that are similar to what you found. And that's all it does. It's not applying any identification. I mean, well, it looks like it is, but I mean, it could be showing you pictures of something halfway across the world just because it happens to have a similar form, shape, or color to what you have asked it to match. Um, we can do, in fact, we're actually talking about, those of you who are familiar with our LFEs, our Learn from the Experts / Learn from the Eccentrics program. We're actually thinking about doing either a full-blown LFE course or maybe weaving that into some other topic about the use of technology in our enjoyment of nature, because it actually can help quite a bit. It can also give you the wrong answers. Now, I wanted to show you another one here called Merlin, and I can't remember if we've talked about this before or not. This is it's a free app put out there by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and it can be a helpful tool. But again, it's not something to, you know, rely on 100%. We did talk about this once before because we did an owl prowl with our friends at King County Audubon last fall. And it was in, I think it was early November. And there was a woman who was bound and determined that there was a long-eared owl calling from the grounds of the St. Charles Boys Home. And it's not that that's impossible, but one great long-eared owls that come down here for the winter, it was a little bit early for them to be here. They're not typically real vocal when they're here. They tend to hang out in conifers, and there weren't any where we were hearing the sound from. The sound we were hearing sounded an awful lot like an immature great horned owl. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But the woman who was hearing the sound said, "Well, Merlin says it's a long-eared owl." And that was that. She stayed, she had a big long lens on her camera, and she was going to stay until that owl showed itself. So, you know, you can put some faith in these. I wouldn't go 100% um, on what they are telling us. Now, what I have found it to be helpful for is if you think you're hearing something, Merlin can help confirm that. Let's see. So I made a recording, and we're not going to listen to the whole thing. Um, I labeled it backyard last week, May 20th. And what started it, what had me actually go back in the house to get my phone was I thought I was hearing peewee, an eastern wood peewee. And they have that little faint whistling call it. And I've never heard one here before. Not I've heard them around St. Charles. They're fairly common in the summer in Kane County, but I never heard one in my backyard. So I got Merlin out and let's see, where are we? So let's see, you can see it. See that right down there? Eastern wood peewee. So I take that as a confirmation. And then I did hear it a time or two more. So I wasn't very, in fact, I heard one tonight when I was walking home over local folks. It's by it was 9th Street south of Haynes, kind of in between the old Haynes Middle School and Rocket Park. There was a peewee singing over there too. Something else that was kind of cool the day that I played this, there was actually a lot going on in the yard, some of which I believe. We definitely have black-capped chickadees here. Definitely the house wren has been singing. House finches have been singing for months. Mourning dove, yes. House sparrow, yes. Magnolia warbler, Philadelphia vireo. I don't know about those two. But I saw number 2 on the list here. It says red-eyed vireo. Now that's a bird I remember listening to a lot when I worked down at Red Oak, down in North Aurora. That bird would, it's, to me, it always sounds like it's having a little conversation, asking and answering little questions. Hello, can you see me? I'm up here. I see you. Can you see me? I see you. Just short little phrases over and over again. And after I looked at the Merlin display, I started listening and sure enough, I heard the red-eyed vireo. So yeah, it's these apps can be helpful and they can be enlightening. But don't believe everything they say until you have some other means of confirmation, either yourself or somebody you're with, that can listen, that you hear the same thing that Merlin says that you're hearing. Now, I have to say I'm less familiar with the other part, and probably the part more people use, the get a photo ID. Oh, I'm sorry, not that part. Start bird ID. And that's where you plug in where you are, and when you saw the bird. It gives you a size range. Was it as big as was it small like a sparrow? You answer all these questions and that gives you a, sometimes it'll give you what it thinks the identification is, and sometimes it'll give you some possibilities. But anyway, helpful, not always 100%, but good to have as a backup. And thanks to it, I found out there was a red-eyed vireo. Now, have I heard it since? No. Have I listened for the red-eyed vireo since? Can't say that I have. I actually keep listening for the catbird that is, I'm not sure if it's gonna nest in the elderberries here this year. Now, let me turn this camera around here real quick so you can see what I'm talking about when we're talking about our catbird habitat. All of that thick growth there that's gradually taking over the yard, that is that's the elderberry that I make stuff with. I'll probably this year do another round of elderberry extract, which is taking the berries and soaking them in vodka and then straining the berries out. It's actually really good. It's called a tincture. Um, might make a little elderflower cordial. We'll see. we'll see what kind of a year we have. They're just this short of blooming. But the catbird loves that thick tangled mass, that thicket sort of growth. Okay, so getting back to the actions here in the yard. So I was getting ready to sit down with you all this evening, and I noticed that tech support puppy was not being very supportive. He was actually eating something. And I tell you, this dog, I have tried to curb his prey drive, but he thinks anything that flies or crawls or hops into the yard is there for his own entertainment and possibly a meal. Uh, and he's caught shrews back here, the occasional baby bunny. Well, tonight he was chewing on something and he'd bite and shake his head, and bite and shake his head. And this is interesting. And I'm always bummed when he kills something. And in this case, I was really setting up, I was going to do a whole thing about these creatures once they got established. And this might not be the only one, we'll see, but he got a carpenter bee. Let's see if I can get that focus there. So carpenter bees, they look kind of like bumblebees, but look, can you see how shiny they do that? See how shiny that abdomen is? Not much hair at all. There's just a little bit of fuzz up where the abdomen meets the thorax there. And this one, because it's wet, because it was in Boker's mouth, you can't really even see the yellow fur very well on the thorax. That would be right there. The wings are a little crumpled too. A lot of people aren't fans of carpenter bees because the female, which is what this is, the female carpenter bee has a black face. That and they have a stinger, which is probably why he was shaking his head while he was trying to eat it. The male carpenter bee has a yellow square in the middle of its face. The male carpenter bees will fiercely guard the area where the female is nesting, which is chewing into wood, and then creating like a gallery of cells where she will lay eggs and deposit their food that they're going to eat, the nectar and pollen mixture that those larvae are going to feed on for the rest of the year. The female is able to produce a hole, to choose a hole that looks perfectly round. It looks like somebody took a drill, maybe maybe like a 3/8 to 1/2 inch size drill bit, and put holes. You see them all the time on wooden picnic shelters. You'll notice the Forest Preserve District is now building a lot of their new shelters with steel girders. The Park District, St. Charles Park District, still has a lot of picnic shelters or pavilions made with wooden supports. These bees look for untreated wood, or wood that doesn't have a lot of treatment on it. You know, maybe there's a coating that started to wear thin, which is actually what's going on here on my deck rails. And I kind of sort of did that on purpose to see. Every time I get a call about carpenter bees, it's not, oh, these are really cool. It's, how do I get rid of the carpenter bees? Yeah, I think over time they could cause some damage. Depends on what you think of as damage, though. I think a few holes are interesting, and they're on the trim, they're not on the support structure. It's a judgment call. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I was excited to hear the males guarding off the edge of the deck here, and I think this is who they were also excited about. I think she was going to build a nest. I had one that built a nest on the deck last year, so this maybe is one of those offspring coming home. I don't know. The males, so the females are the ones that sting, the males don't. The males, though, are the ones that really get in your face. When I was out here over the weekend, I was getting kind of harassed by two male carpenter bees who they were going after each other. And I'm guessing they were trying to, one was trying to shoo the other one away from the nest where the female was. Um, but then they both went after me, but they don't sting. So it was just loud buzzing and right in my face. And then they went away. It's a good way. And it's probably a way that other carpenter bees end up getting killed because I could have just, get them a good swap with my hand. I'm sure other people might have even, done that. Anyway, what's so great about these guys if they're chewing holes in our untreated wood? Well, they're great pollinators, just like our bumbles. They visit both the males and the females visit flowers. The males mostly to feed themselves. The females, though, will gather food that they bring back for their brood. So in that process, even though they are more sparsely furred than what we'd see on a bumblebee, they're still moving pollen around. Here's a look at the underside of the carpenter. Boy, they're big animals, aren't they? Really cool. Well, unfortunately, there's one less carpenter bee in the world. Thanks, Boker. Now, speaking of bees, we're gonna try our first experiment here with looking at some video. I have to remember how I did this. Let's start with a screen share. So, I didn't, let me see here. It doesn't look, Laura, are you on tonight or are you babysitting?
I just put her down.
Nighty night, Lou.
Yeah, exactly. She's still talking in her bedroom.
Oh, such a happy girl.
Yeah.
Laura's a grandma, everybody.
And I keep missing Pam because I have to babysit every Tuesday night.
Softball night. Mama's playing softball. So it doesn't, I don't see Jerry's name on here, but Laura,
Yeah,
Laura and Jerry are sisters, and between them they have quite a bit of nature lore. Laura, had Jerry told you about this this bee?
She had told me, but basically, Pam, I've already kind of forgotten it, to tell you the truth.
Okay, well, tell you what, I've got the video here, so let me do a screen share and we'll watch the video.
Okay.
Let's see. No, let me set it up first. Let me first read you what Jerry said. Her email is called BEE confused number 1 because there's a B confused number 2 too. And she says, so this is actually from a couple of weeks ago. She said, I went on the spring bird count with my brother Tom on Saturday and spotted this bee on a shagbark hickory. It was hollowed out from a lightning strike at Lions Park in Cary, Illinois. I watched the bee land and fly away at least 3 times. When I mentioned it to Laura, she suggested it could be a carpenter bee, but it looks too fuzzy. A naturalist suggested Western carpenter bee, but that would be weird behavior. So again, we're looking at the apps, and the apps aren't always going to give us what we want to know. Maybe it's some kind of mason bee. The video has a cameo by a neat ant. Okay, so that's the video. And Laura, did you see the video or did you see?
Yeah, I saw it a bit ago, but it was on my phone, which I couldn't really see hardly anything.
Well, and I noticed too, so Jerry also sent a shorter clip of just a few seconds, and I couldn't get that one. It was all compressed.
Okay.
And I couldn't get it to stretch out, so it just looked like a silly putty version of a bee.
Yeah.
But here, so let's do this screen share, and I'll pull up the video and I'll let you guys watch it. It's several seconds long here. So let's see, we're going to share this screen, and then I'm going to pull this up and move this out of the way. All right, so everybody see the bee there in the middle? Let's Oh, you know, and I got to move this out of the way so I can do the video controls. I'm going to back this up to the start. All right. So, isn't this interesting? This bee is looks like it's clearly gathering something. Woo! And then it was gone. So, interesting behavior for sure. It's a dead tree, so it's not like there's sap, or that part of the tree anyway is the heartwood. It's the tree itself might still be alive, but there's no fluids in that part of the tree. There's no sap moving around or anything like that. So I watched it a few times and I'm like, yep, that's a bee. Then I did the thing that's better than an app. I phoned a friend. I emailed a friend. Some of you might know him, Terry Measley. He's a local bee expert. And it's not even, I think he's an engineer by trade, but he is so good. He does native bee walks. He's done programs for us about native bees. So he says, looking at the video frame by frame. So, okay, so the first answer that he sent me, the one on the wood sure looks like Colides inequalis. I've never seen them gather wood fiber, but I haven't been looking for that behavior. Maybe it was just a good source of sugar-rich sap, which I'm sure everything will use. You know, they do make a polyester sac for each grub, sealing cells in between. So, but then he watched the video again. So, you know, and the apps don't usually do that. When an app gives you an identification, it moves on. But here, Terry watched it again. He goes, okay, looking again, guessing the tree is dead. Frame by frame, I see this as a mega chile, which is, those are the bees. It's a family of bees where they don't have the pollen pockets like we see on some bees. They gather the pollen, attaches to the little furs, bits of hair or fur on their abdomen or scopa. And they end up, when they get all covered with pollen like that, then they look like a Cheeto, you know, covered with cheese dust. So I think of the family as the Cheeto bees. So he said he knows that these do use wood pulp to wall off their nests. And again, he's used to seeing a heart-shaped face. So that was another clue that he was thinking, you know, he was barking up the wrong semi-dead tree. He's not sure. So Megachilidae is a family. He's not sure where to go from there. M. texana, which is common here, and it seems too early for them, and it seems too hairy for the other one, rotundata. If I could retire, I would study taxonomy more seriously. So let's go back to that video again. And he said it was around, he said 14 seconds in, see the scopa beneath the abdomen. All right, we're going to see if we can do this. Pull this back up. And we're going to hit play. And I'm just going to hit stop at 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, just about ready to take off. Oh, and then I missed it. So little hairs underneath the abdomen. All right. Well, and you can kind of see the Cheetos, the cheese gathering / pollen gathering hairs on the abdomen. And it's interesting too, he said that this does not have the heart-shaped face that you would expect. So Colides and Equalis, we've talked about them before. Those are the, we call them the cellophane bees or the plaster bees. They dig a hole in the ground and yeah, I want to make sure our other visual aid didn't go away. They dig a hole in the ground and they tend to aggregate, not so much because they're social bees, because they're not, they're solitary bees, but they put holes in the ground together because the ground is suitable for digging into. So they have a heart-shaped face, and this bee is, see, it's a much broader bee. And if we back it up some, we can get a better look. Well, that's a good way to do it in slow motion. So we're gonna do slow-mo here of the bee. So it's gathering wood fibers. Not all bees use wood fibers. Some, funny I said wool, there is a bee in this area called the wool carder bee, and they will gather fuzz from fuzzy plants like mullein, or I see them at my house because I have lamb's ear. Both of those plants are not native, but the wool carder bee that we see in this area is from Europe. So it's doing exactly what it needs to. It gathers those little fibers and it makes wool-ish dividers in its nest. Some bees will use mud or they'll chew up the leaf cutter bees will use bits of leaves. So there's lots of different ways that these bees can, lots of different materials that they can gather to divide the chambers in whatever plant stem, hole in the ground, hole in a deck to divide up where their eggs are being deposited. So let's continue here. So it's gathering wood at a time. And then it's getting ready to, oh, there's the ant. Jerry said there was a cameo by an ant. That's boy, I wish we could find an ant expert around here who could tell us more about the dozens and dozens of types of ants that we have. Okay, bees getting ready to take off. Gonna get a little glimpse of that Megachilidae belly as it flies away. So right here is the area where this type of bee gathers its pollen. Okay, from there, I'm gonna, let's see, I'm not gonna stop the share. I'm just going to recreate from memory as best I can the email that we got today, because it did cause quite a stir out at Hickory Knolls. The subject line of that email was Blanding's turtle nesting. You know, talk about having 3-alarm turtle alert. So Blanding's turtles are what live in the turtle pond in the lobby at Hickory Knolls. All those Blanding's turtles are part of the Blanding's Turtle Recovery Project that pretty much all the collar counties up here around Chicago are participating in, to try and bring back this turtle that is state endangered and is actually a candidate for being listed federally. So to find out that one is nesting in this area, I believe this person lives north of St. Charles, maybe like Sleepy Hollow, or maybe as far as Algonquin. Not to say that we don't have Blanding's habitat around here, but to have one crawl up and nest in one's yard would certainly be headline news, at least in the Blanding's turtle world. So anyway, I pulled up the video with a lot of excitement, and that is exactly what I'm going to do for you now. Let's minimize this one and let's pull this one up, spread it out. Uh-oh. No, 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 no. Say I need a codec. It was playing fine before. See, this is what I'm up against. Something has changed. I don't know if it was an update on my computer or if it was, all right, let me see if I can go over here. No, that's the downloads. Let's go back to inbox and well, that was kind of funny. We've got another issue over at mini golf with a that might be a story for next week. They want to know what to do about the landings turtle. I'm sorry, I'm reading, trying to do too many things at once. They want to know what to do about the, okay, here we go.
The landing turtle, and identifies it native, threatened, and endangered.
Again, it would be really awesome if there was a Blandings turtle nesting in somebody's yard locally. But if we look a little closer at this, to identify a Blandings turtle, you want to see, or you want to look for a domed shell, a shell that's in the shape of a, I always think of a loaf of bread. And you want to see if there's any markings around the head. Blandings turtles are known for their bright yellow chins. It's a little hard to see on this video. There's a glare from the shiny shell, and we're a little let's look at it again. I haven't gotten back to her yet about this, but it's so again, using an app as the sole source of input. I don't want to take away from the excitement of seeing a turtle laying its eggs, but it's a painted turtle. It's not a Blandings turtle. Painted turtles are super cool. They're just not very rare, at least not in this area. So can you see? So let's think about this for a second. Let's think about the weather we've been having around here lately. It's been really dry for some time, and it's been pretty warm for a few days now. Yet as that turtle is digging her nest, and that's, by the way, how they do it. They use their rear legs to dig with. They don't use their front legs. Look at how moist this soil is. Now, maybe the person who set this video in waters their grass, but I kind of think not. Looks kind of dry over here. Turtles have a little trick up their sleeves. You've heard. Turtles have a trick up their sleeves to be able to lay eggs even when the soil is dry as dust and hard to dig in. They pee on it. They urinate. Well, they don't really have kidneys. They release water into their, let's back it up again. And they can hold a considerable amount of water. And it maybe that's an adaptation that they have for being able to nest under all conditions like that. But it's funny, the turtle is digging this, and this is a reminder to all you guys, and then anybody you can think of to remind, it is turtle season now. We're full on in turtle nesting season. So painted turtles, snapping turtles, red-eared sliders. Those are the kind of the big three in this area that will go quite a distance away from their home water, whether it's the Fox River or a creek or a pond. They do that as it's part of an instinct they have to get away from where the actual water is. Their eggs will drown if they become submerged, and if we were to have flooding occur, that would wipe the nest out. So there's an instinct, there's a drive these turtles have to head for higher, drier ground in order to lay their eggs. One of the other local species that's pretty common in this area, the soft-shell turtle, doesn't tend to do that, but it's not because they want their nests to drown. It's just they, of the local turtles we have, they're the most poorly adapted for moving on land. These guys all are aquatic. The painted, the red-eared slider, the snapping turtle are all aquatic turtles. They are best adapted to swimming, but they can walk across. In fact, some of our big snappers go quite a distance away from water to lay their eggs. So you might see soft-shelled turtles not too far from water. Don't think they're being lazy. It's just they just don't move all that well when they're not in water. They're the ones some people call the pancake turtles. They've instead of a bony shell, they've got the cartilage. They do have a skeleton underneath there, but their shell is shaped kind of like a pancake. All right, before we get in, I just had a few slides I was going to show you, but let's see, minimize that. I'm going to minimize this. Actually, what I want to do, I want to stop the screen share. We had, I don't know, I was going to call it a blessed event, but that's not really the right term for a snake shedding its skin. Mary, one of our snakes at the nature center, shed and left us this treasure here, her shed skin. But I thought it was so cool. And I want to see how this holds. Oh, yeah, this will work. You see the shiny spot right here? And then there's another one over here. She's kind of, I'm going to open this up. Snakes, as we've talked about in the past, they do not have eyelids. So, and what they have instead are scales that cover their eyes. I'm just not doing a very good job of this at all. Kind of spread it open one more time. So, hold. No, it's better if I hold it farther back. So, just like little context there, you can see there's one there. And then there's one over here. They shed, when they shed their skin, the skin that covers their eyes comes off too. Let's see if I can get a better angle on it that way. All right, well, something fun to look for. Snakes, so they're up, they're about, they have probably completed their mating part of their summer to-do list. They're now on to feeding. The females are growing their offspring inside of them. They're going to be shedding a lot. These are kind of a fun thing to look for, especially rocky areas along the Fox River. We've got an awful lot of water snakes, and they will usually climb up on land in order to shed. You can look for the head. It doesn't even matter what kind of snake you're looking at. You can find the head. You can see these scales are called the brill scales. And then if you want, you can also then try to identify the snake by the pattern that is visible on the remaining pieces of shed. All right, so that was not as cool as I was hoping it was going to be. try one more time. Oh, there you go. There, that works. The two eyes. All right, that was a lot of work. That's probably gonna blow away. All right, folks, we got just a few little slides to work through here and get caught up on what's happening in the world of nature this week. There. Save. And share. Go. Uh-oh. Whew. All right. So I thought you guys would get a kick out of the aftermath of last week's program. So, last week we were out in front of Good Natured World headquarters. I had dragged one of our floor lamps inside the office. I brought it out because it would be dark by the end of the program. Well, we are having a really good year in terms of caddisflies. In fact, a gentleman stopped me the other night. I was walking with a friend along the river over by the brownstones in downtown St. Charles, and he stopped us. He goes, "You two look like you know about the river." And I don't know exactly what that meant. we both had hats on, yeah, baseball caps. So maybe, I don't know what the clue was, but he wanted to know what the deal was with the bugs. And he also asserted that there's something up because he's not seeing any swallows. He's not seeing any chimney swifts. Now, I don't know, sometimes people say that, like, where have all the fill in the blanks gone? Where, in fact, someone just sent me an email today where, what happened to all the 13-line ground squirrels? Well, certain areas they have disappeared from over time, habitat loss, hunting or trapping, poisoning has caused them to go away. We have a boatload of 13-line ground squirrels at Hickory Knoll, so it's not like they've disappeared. Same with swallows. We have a lot of tree swallows and we have barn swallows, plenty of them out at Hickory Knolls, but this gentleman hadn't seen any along the river, so he's wondering, where are all the birds that come and eat all these bugs, and why do we have so many bugs? Well, the caddisflies we're seeing now actually got their start last year. They live in the water as larvae for about a year, and then they pupate, and then they fly out in huge masses. I think this past week it looks like we had two different kinds. I saw some notably larger ones and then some smaller ones. Once they reach this phase of their life, the clock is ticking. They're only going to be around for a few days. Their objective is to mate and lay some eggs and then be food for a bird if they're still flying, or fish if they fall down in the water. Let's see if we could zoom in just a little bit more. These caddisflies they look like moths, but they are not moths. They are in their own order called, it'll come to me here, Trichoptera, with hairy wings. Because butterflies and moths have scaly wings, Lepidoptera. They, those either bright colors or bland colors on some of our moths and some of our butterflies too. Those are tiny little scales attached to the wings. With the caddisflies, their wings are covered with fine little hairs. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, last week we had a little Park District get together. Coworker was leaving to take a new job, so there was a farewell lunch. I happened to sit down across from Captain Steve. He is our new paddle wheel riverboat captain. And Steve's he's a big guy. He's an outdoorsman. Got big guns, if you know what I mean. He said, looks like he works out a lot. Well, he was like crying, and I thought, oh gosh, some of us have worked with Tim, our departing coworker for a long time, and it's sad, but we're all excited for him, and it's not that sad. Well, turns out that Steve wasn't crying because Tim was leaving. Steve was crying because he got hit in the eye with a caddisfly. And I think he had actually gotten some medical attention, gotten some cream for it, but I kind of wonder if he had little caddisfly hairs in his eye. So he, in addition to being a paddle wheel riverboat captain, he's also a fishing guide, and he was piloting his boat with a fishing client. They actually caught some really nice looking catch and release smallmouth bass. But one of these caddisflies got between, as he was driving the boat, the caddisfly, hit between his glasses and his eye and ended up in his eye. And it just, it looked, in fact, a couple of guys didn't want to sit next to him because they thought he had pink eye. But they can be a little hazardous, I guess. And I'm suspecting it's the hairs on their little bodies that cause the irritation in Captain Steve's eyes. But yeah, I had to clean all that up before I brought it back in the office, or I probably wouldn't have been allowed back in the next day. So anyway, this was a fun little surprise. I was adding some coffee grounds to the compost pile the other morning, and I saw something white, and I looked again. At first I thought it was a piece of styrofoam. Then I saw that it was moving in a definite powered direction. It wasn't just floating like styrofoam sometimes does. Here's the first wolf spider egg case of this season, the egg sac of the season. It wasn't a very big, wolf spiders can get really large, and this one was quite small. I'm thinking though that it did overwinter because there wouldn't be enough time to grow up from a spiderling to be big enough to already be having babies itself. So one of last year's spiders now making some of this year's spiders. Here's a better look. Now this is a species where they attach the egg sac to the tip of their abdomen with a little bit of silk. I thought it was kind of cool. This one must have been close to being time to hatch. And you see all the bumps on here, all the little spiderlings getting ready to burst forth. We can also kind of see the eye arrangement here. This is wolf spiders. They can spin silk, and they do. That's how she encased all of her eggs. That's all spider silk there. And then she attached it to her abdomen with a different kind of silk. But they don't spin a web to catch their prey with. They are sight hunters. And we can see some of their eyes, some of her eyes here. I have not seen her since, but once I have been kind of careful as I've been adding stuff to the compost. But I would kind of like to see her again, because once that egg sac hatches, the little ones come up and ride around on mom for at least a few more days. They will molt or shed their skin at least once before they leave mom. So she not only protects them by carrying them around on her abdomen, but then she also defends them while they're riding around on her back. This is one of many, many different adaptations that spiders have for caring for their young. When it's possible, they do provide maternal. Now, some species, they lay their eggs and then they die. So it's not really possible to defend. In that case, they're usually it will produce an egg sac that's somewhat camouflage. Maybe they have like a brownish silk that they can use to produce a sac that will blend in with its surrounding. In that case, I'm thinking of the garden spiders that the black and yellow, some people call them banana spiders, that we'll see later on in the season. So yeah, if I can find her again and her babies, I will definitely take pictures. So this is a fearsome looking spider, and one that a lot of people are afraid of it. It can bite. I'll be upfront about that. It's got big old fangs, and yes, they can pierce skin, but in order to pierce the skin, they have to be by skin. And this is a spider that usually hangs out underneath rocks. It's the woodlouse spider. And they, woodlouse is another name for roly-poly or sowbug and sowbug. And look at these mouth parts here. This is one of just a very few spiders we have around here that have 6 eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And another one being the brown recluse, and this is clearly not a recluse. I felt a little bad for this spider because you'll see it is not underneath a rock. It was this is how I found it. It was upside down on the sidewalk. So it was no longer living. I don't know what happened to it. It didn't look squished. I didn't see any fluids escaping from it anywhere. It was just barely, I don't know if it was alive or if it was just having nerve sensations, moving its limbs ever so slightly. It wasn't stiff. It hadn't been dead for that long. But let's go back here. And I took a little twig to arrange the legs so you could get a better sense of what it looked like. It's one of those rare days when I didn't have my lip balm, but this spider, if we include the legs, which if you look spider measurements up either online or in field guides, usually the length that they're quoting is not, it's just the body. It would be from here to the tip of the abdomen. It would not include the legs, but if we include the legs with this one, it was probably just shy of 1 inch long. So pretty decent size. And it is a sturdy spider. Those woodlice or sowbugs and roly-polies, they have that hard shell. And this spider is capable of piercing them. If you were to get bit by one of these spiders, it's not, I haven't tried this myself. I'm only passing along what I've heard, but it's their venom is not very toxic. It's not likely to produce a bad infection or a bad reaction or anything like that. So as it could produce an infection because spider mouths are dirty, but it's just, they're very impressive. And this burgundy color does oftentimes cause people to be alarmed, but their job is to control woodlice, and that's what they do. I put this in just because we've talked in the past about one, this is how I found the spider, and two, we talked in the past about you can always tell a male spider because the pedipalps, which are little structures up by the head, they're kind of the spider equivalent of antennae. Her pedipalps are kind of blurry here. We've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 legs. Her pedipalps. Let's see, did I get them in the other picture? Nope. Male palps look like little boxing gloves, and female palps don't. The palps sometimes like on a tarantula, the palps are big enough, they look like another set of legs. Here's a palp. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 legs, and then here's a palp, and there's no big structure at the bottom of it. There's no boxing glove. So this is a female. All to say, this is what a female's underside looks like. And this, if you study spiders, sometimes you have to look at the underparts to see what type of a spider it is, but this is where she would, her eggs don't come out back here. This is where the silk would come out. But this area here is where the eggs would be produced, or where they would come out from. So yeah, kind of cool. Oh, and this is a really cool view of her fangs too, isn't it? The chelicerae and the fangs. Super cool. Too bad that I actually gave her a proper spider burial. I moved her off to the side and put some grass over her so she can feed the soil. The woodlouse spider. All right, let's go on here. I just took this picture as I put the spider off to the side of the sidewalk, and then I looked and I'm like, what in the world is all the way along the road here? This is what happens when sycamore balls, those achenes, the sycamore fruit that's full of seeds, they are everywhere. This is Horn Street here in St. Charles, and look at how thick the sycamore seeds are. This is right across the street from a sycamore tree. This went probably across 2 or maybe even 3 front yards. Just huge amounts coming off of the sycamore tree. Big year for sycamores last year. Have to watch this year and see if it's a smaller year, if it follows the same cycles like we see with acorns, where sometimes we have big mast years and sometimes the trees produce hardly any seeds. This was something the nature nerds, and some of you are on here tonight, Susie, Sarah. This is the poison hemlock that we ran into. This is along, there's a little footpath that runs along, runs between Route 31 and Stevens Street in Geneva, sort of on the, what would that be, the north border of Wheeler Park. It's a kind of runs at a diagonal. Well, this was correctly identified and backed up by Seek as a poison hemlock plant. So it's in the carrot family. And you might see this and think, wow, that is a crazy looking ferny type plant. Almost, you can see how, you know how carrot leaves look. These leaves have many leaflets. Each leaf has a lot of leaflets on them, finely divided, but the ID trait that confirms that this is poison hemlock is the purple spots on the stem. Well, I got to thinking about poison hemlock, and I actually found this ID sheet or information sheet. This is put off by U of I Extension. And this is a plant. So poison hemlock, it's toxic. It's poisonous if you ingest it, but this is also, as so many plants in the carrot family are, like cow parsnip and wild parsnip. They can cause a reaction on your skin too. What I didn't realize, and one of the reasons I brought this up tonight, is this extension handout recommends reporting it. They say it's widespread. It's a direct notification of infestations via phone calls or emails not required. Still, passive reporting through websites or smartphone apps can help track poison hemlock throughout the state. And then they talk about, you know, removing it so that the seeds don't spread, because it's a problem. It can be a problem. So I might go back over there. Actually, I might call our friends over at the Geneva Park District and let them know they've got some poison hemlock there. There's lots of means of controlling it. One thing you shouldn't do is hit it with a weed whacker, because then you're just spraying that reactive chemical in the stem all over your body, and that's not a good thing. But it did something to look out for. If it's there in Geneva, you might spot it in other places too. Look for the stem with the purple spots. Let's go back. There. And I think that brings us to the end of our slides. So I'm going to stop the share. My goodness, I am getting bit up here. You see the, I got all kinds of little bumps here, and they're not mosquitoes. I don't know if it's those little, was it buffalo gnats? I just got another one on my neck. They're tiny little things, but man, I'm getting really itchy. We might have to put it in the fun, and it's after 9 o'clock anyway. So we got a couple of chats here. And Diane, oh, you've had catbirds at your Oriole feeder. Oh, that's cool. Well, they like their fruit. And I know I've heard a lot of people say that, especially, a couple weeks ago when it was still pretty chilly, people were talking about having robins at their suet feeders. So I suppose it's maybe we're seeing a progression of behaviors where they're figuring out, hey, people are putting this free food out. We may as well be taking advantage of it. That's really cool. Elder juice with rough sumac juice makes a really good jelly. That's a cooking tip from Ann. Thanks, Ann. I just came across, my brother and I have been going through things at our folks' house, and I came across a box of paraffin that I know my mom, my grandma, my aunt, that's what they always used to seal their jelly jars with. So maybe I'll try making some jelly. I found the jars too. So we'll see. I'll check into that, and thanks for the tip. That's pretty much all I had tonight. Oh, what do I got in my hair? Pretty much all I had tonight, folks. I appreciate your time very much. And we'll do this again next week. Oh, some of you were asking, our dates are up there. We are taking one night off. I think it's June 20th in June, and then we're taking July 4th off in July, and we're taking August 1st off in August so that we can go be part of the National Night Out over in Campton Hills. So yeah, dates are up for summer. See you back next week. Thanks, everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Great
so
day.
much.
Thanks,
Have a
Pam.
good night.